Straight
Places where your presence gets tested the most. Now, presence, as we've talked about a lot here lately, is not a theory. It is something that gets tested in real world environments where energy matters more than words. And energy matters more than words in damn near every world environment, even though us humans with our big brains and ability to think, reason, and rationalize on a conscious level, we tend to not understand it, not consider it, or even once you understand it and consider it, you just don't want to accept it because you, with your big brain, probably thinking you're smarter than the average person, as everybody thinks they are. You would rather things be more on a conscious level, dealt with more on a conscious level, and matter more on a conscious level because that gives you a bigger advantage. I suggest, on the contrary, if you're able to master the energy and you have the conscious skills will just be a great multiplier of your presence understanding and your mastery of presence. And since nobody is trying to master presence, when I say nobody, I don't mean that directly, but I mean it as a figure of speech. Very few people are considering mastery of presence. Your mastery of presence will create a great opportunity for you because there's much less competition trying to master presence than there is competition trying to master conscious words or conscious communication. So where energy matters more than words is pretty much everywhere, but some places it may seem like it matters even more. So you're going to know if your presence is real in these places where energy matters most, because there are certain situations that expose weakness, if there is any, and does so very quickly in a very visceral way. That's what we're going to talk about here today. So today we're going to talk about the arenas where people read you instantly and no amount of explanation, i.e. Verbosity, verbal output, can save you if your energy does not measure up to what is expected, or there's a big disconnect between your energy and your words. So pay attention. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, places where your presence gets tested the most. Number one, when you're dealing with women. Number one place your energy gets tested, your presence gets tested the most when you're dealing with women. This applies to both men and women who are listening to this. When you're dealing with a woman, they read your energy pretty quickly. Women, in my experience, tend to be more perceptive of presence and energy of other people than men are. They just have their sixth sense is a little bit sharper than a man's sixth sense as a general rule. I'm not saying men are not perceptive. I'm a man. I think I'm perceptive, but women generally are more perceptive than men, and they have to be. Again, it's biological wiring. Women can feel your presence before you speak. And if they are heterosexual women, and you are also a heterosexual person, let's assume you're a man, you're a heterosexual man and the woman's a heterosexual woman, they will naturally be reading the energy of every man that they come across. Again, I already told you this is biological wiring. If your energy leaks, i.e. your presence shows up any form of any form of insecurity, anxiety, or neediness, or even low status, it'll all be over before you get a chance to say hello. You might still get to say hello. You may say hello. You may even have a little conversation, but it's not going to go anywhere because the woman already made a decision about who you are. And she's already not interested, or she's already very interested. And if she's very interested, it doesn't matter what you say. And if she's not interested, it doesn't matter what you say. Either way, it doesn't matter what you say. Everybody catching what I'm saying here? Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? The energy is everything. If your energy is leaking, any form of insecurity, anxiety, neediness, low status, then the woman has already made a decision. All right, this guy is not somebody who I need to talk to. This person is not someone who I need to give my attention or my resources to. It's over before you get a chance to speak. And again, whatever you say, going in one ear and out the other, if you even get that chance. So understand that a woman is testing you without words at all times. We already talked about this a couple of days ago. And a man who is anchored in himself is the only person who will pass such a test. And again, this test is not announced. There's no scores given out. And the only way you know if you pass the test or not is based on the whatever engagement and conscious communication you end up having with this woman. About 30 to 40% of the conversations that I have with men, we are talking on some level about their social lives when it comes to things like dating, when it comes to their interactions with other males. And the reality is attraction, friend attraction, business attraction, dating attraction is more about energy than it is about how you look, how you dress, what kind of cologne you wear, how much money you make, or the kind of car you drive. A lot of people don't want to accept this, but this is the reality of how it works. Women are making their decisions about you men relatively quickly. Before you even know she's in the room, she already decided if you are her person or if you're not her person. That fast. And again, you might not even seen the woman. She already decided yes or no. If the answer is yes, then she's going to make sure you see her if you haven't yet. If the answer is no, she's not going to go out of her way to try to make you see her. Even if you end up noticing her, she's going to give you an unconscious signal that she's not interested. Usually by ignoring you or turning herself away from you to where you don't make an approach. Ladies, do I have this right? Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, the places where your presence gets tested the most. Number 2, in business, your presence gets tested. Getting a business deal done is not just about the numbers, i.e. this costs this much, you make this deposit, you pay us this much for this many months or every year, et cetera, et cetera. Is that part of the business deal? Of course it is. That's not the whole thing. Actually, that's not even the majority of it, even though most people think it is. People think it's about the numbers. It's not really about the numbers. It is, but it ain't. Business deals are about who carries authority. That's what business deals are about. Who has the authority? Who believes who? That's what it comes down to. When people trust your authority, they trust your confidence, and they believe that you are certain in the things that you say, this is how deals get done, regardless of the numbers. I want that point to sink in. Regardless of the numbers. People believe you. They believe in you. They believe what you say. They believe that you can help them. They believe that you know what you're talking about, and they believe that they can trust you to help them solve the problem that they are currently having, that for which they are having the conversation with you in the first place. The numbers are irrelevant to a yes or a no. They believe in all of those things. They check all of those boxes. The answer is yes. Now the question only is, how do we make this work given the numbers being the numbers? If they don't have the money in their pocket or in their bank account, how do we make this work? That's a matter of that you can figure out. You're a salesperson. You better be able to figure that one out. You already got a yes. You need to close the deal somehow, some way. Most salespeople incorrectly think that closing a deal is about, well, these people don't have the money. Now, I'm assuming you have somewhat qualified prospects. If they believe you, they believe what you're offering, they believe it can help, and they believe that that following your lead is going to get them from where they are to where they want to be, they will figure it out one way or another. If they don't believe those things, they can have 10 times the money of what you're asking in their pocket right now, and they won't buy. Why? Because they didn't buy you. They didn't buy your presence. This is the second place where your presence gets tested, is when you're doing business. You want to get a raise at work? It's not about the work that you did and you showing logically that you do a good job. You should and can show that you can logically do a good job. That's not what gets you a raise. What gets you a raise is the energy behind what you're doing. Do I feel like this person is going to be worth the investment of me giving them more money? You getting a promotion is not about if you did better work than all your peers. It's a matter of, if I elevate this person to a leadership position, will they actually be able to lead and inspire and influence other people to perform at a higher level than how they're performing right now? Yes or no? So you get into a leadership position should not be about you did a good job in your current position, so you get elevated to the next one. No, that's maybe a promotion if it's just a job related. It's just you doing a job by yourself in a vacuum. But if it's you going to a position of leading other people, then that's a completely different job than doing the job yourself. You being good at doing the job yourself does not mean you can inspire and influence others to do that job at the same level at which you did it. This is the reason why Michael Jordan is not a basketball coach. He's a pretty damn good player. Does he have the ability to teach other people how to do what he did? No, because it can't be replicated. That's the reason why he never coached. And other legendary players, many of them tried. Magic Johnson tried, didn't work out. Everything ain't for everybody, folks. People need to trust your authority, your confidence, and they believe in what you say that, again, you can help get things done regardless of what you're asking for. They'll figure it out if they really believe you can solve their problem. This is what sales is really about, solving problems. The money is just the filter for the type of people who you're going to solve problems for. Everybody catch that? In sales, the money, the numbers are just a filter for what type of people do you want to solve problems for. It's not a question of whether you can solve problems. It's a matter of, okay, who do I want to solve problems for? I'm going to set my price at this level. I'm going to attract people at this level and above. You lower your price and you're asking for more people. You raise your price, you're asking for fewer, but you're still solving the same problem. The key to raising your prices and asking for it and getting it is much more about presence than it is about the logical assessment of your ability or your product or whatever the hell you think is really doing the deal. That ain't the real thing. And a lot of salespeople get this wrong, is why a lot of salespeople come up short, because you are running the wrong race. You're trying to fix the wrong problem, or you're trying to fix a problem that's not even a problem, actually is what the problem is. You walk into a sales meeting or a boardroom with shaky energy, you've lost before you started talking. You walk into a sales meeting or a boardroom with complete certainty, you have won before you started talking. Now, this is literally how it works, everybody. We call this doing your homework. Homework is, in the professional sense, it is the work that you do before you get into the situation such that the situation is easy compared to the preparation that you've already done. What have I told you is the number one hallmark of a professional? That they are always prepared. Discipline is the header under which you get preparation, under which you get practice, under which you get knowing what the game is. So when you get in the game, you've already prepared for what the game is going to throw at you. That is a discipline. That is preparation. It is doing your homework. Professionals always do their homework. That's the reason why they're able to make the performance look easy, even though it's not easy. They make it look easy, not because they are super talented, because they've done the homework. A professional who does their homework consistently, then goes out and performs consistently, it looks like, to the amateur's eyes, it looks like talent. And many, even fellow professionals, get fooled by this in thinking that this person is just super talented. That's the reason why they're doing all these things. Talent may be part of the equation, but it's the preparation that actually makes it look the way it looks. I knew a trainer down in Wesley Chapel, Florida, where I lived for maybe about 6 months. And there's a trainer I was working with there, and he told me that Michael Jordan, when he was playing, if the Bulls had practice at 9 o'clock, he would get to the facility around 7 o'clock. He would do all these drills on his own with a trainer. And then he would go for maybe about an hour. Then he would go in the locker room, change his clothes and put his street clothes back on. Then he would go out in the parking lot and sit in his car. And he would wait until his other teammates started pulling into the parking lot as if for practice. They started pulling into the parking lot, not as if, but for practice. And then Michael would get out of his car and he would walk into the facility at the same time as the other teammates, as if he had just showed up to the facility. And then when he would just be so much better than everybody else, his teammates all looked at it as if, wow, this guy's just super talented. Was Michael Jordan talented? Yes, but Michael Jordan also did the homework. Now, I don't know if that story is even true, but directionally, it makes perfect sense. Michael Jordan was talented, but he wasn't that talented. He wasn't that much better than everybody that he just did the same work and just automatically was so much better. No, he did the work in addition to having talent. And that's what a professional is, folks. When you have presence, it makes your words land heavier and your energy does the selling for you. When you have true presence, your energy is doing all the selling. It's not the numbers. It's not even what you say. It's not your fucking script. It's your energy. Your energy is the seller. All you got to do is ask for the money and collect it. That's the key to selling. Ask for the money and collect it. Your energy already sealed the deal that the answer is yes. It's just a matter of how do I collect the money? That's the only question you really should be asking in a sales conversation. I have a sales conversation. The only question I'm asking is how am I going to collect the money? That's it. And the more tools I have for collecting the money, the higher likelihood that this sale is getting done one way or another. If I only got one tool, then I might end up not getting one simply because whoever I'm working with can't use that one tool. But if I got 10 tools, the sale's getting done. That's a guarantee. It's just a matter of how we getting it done. That's the only question. Why? Because I've done homework. Everybody understand this? Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is the places where your presence gets challenged the most. Number 3, around other men. Interestingly enough, a lot of times when I'm talking to men who want to get more active in their social and dating lives, and let's just say it in a more raw, basic way, men who want to get more pussy. Like, let's just say it that way. Everybody's heard this language before, right? All right, I don't have any virgin ears in the room. Okay, men who want to get more pussy. Let's just say that. In addition to not having much experience dealing with the type of women who they want to deal with, so they have an idea of the type of women they want to have sex with, but they don't have a lot of experience with these women. These same men also don't spend enough time dealing with men. And I don't mean dealing with men like dating them. I mean just dealing with men, having conversations with actual men in actual life. A lot of men who don't have as much female action as they want haven't had enough experience just having conversations with people, period. Even the ones that they're not trying to have sex with, whether that's a woman or a man. I understand that men size each other up. Not I understand, but you should understand. Men size each other up all the time. We size other men up quickly. As soon as a man walks into a room, there's another man in the room. They're sizing that man up, trying to figure out who is he, what is he about, friend or foe? Do I fight? Do I run? Do I freeze? We decide this in about 2 seconds every time a man sees another man. Every man makes these decisions quickly. And this is an unconscious thing. As I said, it takes 2 seconds. Men just do it in a different way than women. I just explained to you how. And then an entire episode on this a few days ago. Is a silent competition amongst men in terms of posture, eye contact, calmness. Men are having this competition at all times. Every time 2 men come across each other, there's posture, eye contact, calmness, conversation happening between these 2 men. Weak men, under this tension of this competition, this unspoken, unconscious competition, weak men fold under this pressure. They submit. They don't make eye contact. Their posture rounds and makes them smaller, and their anxiety and stress go up. All of those unconsciously give off the signal of subordination. Now you look small because you made yourself small. Understanding there's one thing that makes you a high value man. I did a series on the concept of being a high value man. If you did not hear that episode, that was $33.11 and $33.12. High value man, how to be one. 2-part series. The one thing that makes you a high value man is how you compare to and handle yourself around other men who are of status and of high value themselves. This is one of, there were several criteria to being a high value man. I believe it was either 6 or 7 points that I gave in the series. One of those points was this. What is your status amongst other men who are high value, other men who are recognized as high value? How do they see you? You walk into a room of other high value men. Are you on their level? Are you above them? Are you below them? Do you even belong in the room? And it's not a matter of what they say. It's a matter of what do you say? What is your unconscious communication saying when you get around a bunch of other high value men? Do you belong in that circle? Yes or no? And unconsciously, you're giving off the answer. That's my point. It's not something that you say. It's something that people can feel. Does he belong here or does he not belong here? That's how it works. When I was in college, where I finished college, was at Penn State Altoona. We had an indoor gym that everybody played at. We had one indoor gym. The games, volleyball team, basketball team, the classes, gym classes. There was some activity for kids in the town. If there was a basketball game or a basketball practice or volleyball practice, all of them took place in one gym. We had one gym at the time. They've since expanded the facility to where now you have 2 gyms in the same building. They made the building bigger, but it used to only be one. So when I was in college, we played pickup basketball. There were 2 full courts. So we played pickup basketball on a court that was closest to where you walked in. Then there was another court on the far end. And the court on the far end, we used to call it the D League, for developmental league, which is what the NBA's, what you all now know is the G League, sponsored by Gatorade. That's why it's called the G League. Used to be called the D League for developmental league. It's still a developmental league, but it's just sponsored by Gatorade, so it's called the G League. And we would sometimes, when we were playing pickup, we needed a player to play in our pickup game. So we would look over, because the D League was like the players who weren't really serious about basketball, or they didn't want to play with us because we were more competitive. There'd be a lot of trash talk and serious games on our main court. On the other court would be guys who wanted to play basketball, but they weren't that serious. Now, every once in a while, somebody who played in the D League regularly would either A, wander over to our court because they felt like they could play with us, or B, we would grab one of them from their game to come play in our game because we needed an extra player. And there were some players who would come play in the games in the D League, from the D League to our court, and they would play as if they believed they belonged on the court with us and that they could hang. And sometimes they were right, sometimes they were wrong. There were other times, though, players would come from the D League court and they would come play with us, and they played as if they didn't believe they belonged on a court with us. And after that one experience, they would never come back over there again. And we would never ask them to come back, because we could tell by their energy they didn't think they believed. They didn't think that they believed that they belonged. And if you don't believe you belong, it's not even fun beating you, because you know competition. Competition, you got to at least be trying to beat me, or at least think you can. It's not fun beating somebody who doesn't want to fight. And again, I'm using fighting as a metaphor here. Point is, people are reading this in you. Women notice this. Other men notice this. If you feel or look weak amongst others, then you are not one of them. They immediately exclude you mentally, if not physically. Women notice this as well. Okay, your energy will carry over to your engagements with women if you can have this energy when you're engaging with men. And I'm talking to the men. Point number 4. Today's topic, once again, 4 places where your presence gets challenged, or the main places your presence gets tested. Number 4, in conflict. Conflict is an inevitability of life, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot go through life avoiding conflict. That is impossible. There will always be conflict. All humans have their own personal agendas. Sometimes agendas clash. whether it is direct confrontation, whether it is negotiation, whether it is an argument. The first weapon you can use in any of these situations is your presence, not your words, your presence. When your energy is calm and relaxed and your counterpart is flying off the handle, they will eventually come down and calm down and meet you at your level. Why? Because you are regulating the temperature of the conversation. When your energy is frantic and their energy is also frantic, now you just have two frantic people screaming at each other. Your job is to regulate the energy. Remember what I told you days ago, and I've told you this many times. Never allow the energy of another person to dictate your energy. You make your energy dictate their energy. You do not reciprocate another person's energy. They match your energy. You set the pace, they adjust to it, always. So this concept that some of you may have heard and maybe even grown up saying that my energy will be a reflection of your energy, that is complete bullshit. No, it's not. You make everybody else adjust to your tone. You never adjust to their tone. That's not leadership. You're adjusting to their energy, or their energy can move you. Leadership is you dictate the energy. You create the energy, even though energy is technically not created. You bring the energy, they feed it, they respond to you, and you calibrate the entire room. Does everybody understand me? When you are in your stillness, your calmness, a full presence that people can feel, it stops people from taking a step forward. It causes them to think twice before they say something. And when you project that calm control, people will hesitate and cede ground to you without you asking for it. Again, has any of you ever been physically moving about, and people were moving out of your way almost instinctively, even though you didn't say anything to them? Every one of you has experienced this. People will cede ground to you without you asking for it when you're in full presence mode. When you project weakness, you lose before you even make a move. When you project weakness, things just find a way to get in your way, even though they weren't in your way before. Why? Because you're being weak. The universe readjusts to your energy. Robert Greene talks about this in the 48 Laws of Power. When you conduct yourself as weak and helpless, you get treated like you're weak and helpless, even by people who are not malicious. You conduct yourself as if you're in power and in control, even people who are aggressive will get out of your way. It's an interesting phenomenon, but it's 100% true. Let's recap today's class, which is the places where your presence gets tested the most. Understand, folks, presence is not some theory, okay? It is tested in real world environments where energy matters more than words. I'm giving you the examples of when and where this happens and what to do about it. Number one, when you're dealing with women, specifically for men. Women can feel your presence before you speak, and if you're both heterosexual, they will naturally read the energy of every man they come across. And if your energy is leaking insecurity, anxiety, or neediness, you have already lost before you open your mouth, if you even get a chance to speak to her. Number two, in business, getting a deal done is not just about the numbers, even though everybody wants to think that it's about the numbers. Business deals are about carrying authority. When people trust your authority, your confidence, and they are certain, and that you are certain in what you say, deals get done. The numbers are just a formality. Number three, when you're around other men. A lot of men who talk about wanting to have more sex and get more women and get more pussy really don't have a lot of experience dealing with people, period, men, let alone women. And understand that if you can hold your own status-wise and presence-wise amongst men, then talking to women is easy. If you cannot hold your own status-wise and presence-wise dealing with other men, then talking to women will be an impossibility for you. I talked about this in the series on high-value men. One way you judge whether a man is high value is how other high-value men see him and perceive him. Again, without him saying a single word. Do they perceive him as a high value person, or do they perceive him as a low status individual? All right. And if you can hang with the other men, then you have no problem talking to women. And number four, in conflict. Conflict is an inevitability in life because human beings have their own personal agendas, and sometimes those agendas clash. When you project calm control, people will hesitate, people will cede ground, people will instinctively move out of your way. And they will instinctively calm down and regulate themselves to your energy rather than you regulating yourself to their energy. Never allow another person to dictate your energy. You always control the pace and make them meet you where you're at, which is always in a calm, still, grounded, present position. How do you make all this real? How do you make this part of your biological wiring, not just something that you do or something that you understand, and not a performance, but an actual way of being? I'm glad you asked. You do that inside my Power Presence Mastermind, where you will have me as your direct coach on this whole process, where we take this from a concept that you understand to something that you do, to something that you are being, to something that you radiate so strongly that other people say it for you. That is all at powerpresenceprotocol.com/mastermind. Again, that's powerpresenceprotocol.com/mastermind. Work on your game. Dre all